both of my guests this afternoon. I was reading some of the notes that we have and the trust. The trust, yes, actually, it works better now. Thank you. Yeah. So the trust with our customers is probably the most important thing. And I was reading about these consumers around the world saying that 47% of them trust what they see on TV, but 70% of them they trust what they hear from other customers. And this is probably one of the best or the most important things. Another thing was interesting I read in these comments were that after reading the reviews, 5% change airlines based on the review. Sometimes 10% change the resort or the hotel, the resort or the destination, and 33% change the hotel they're going to. So this is huge numbers, and obviously we cannot deny that the service has a huge impact in our hospitality marketing. So this is the subject today, and I have with me Ms. ECE TONBUL, who is the executive board member and the managing director of Paloma Hotels, also honorary consul of Belgium. I think you are today here in the category, your head as hotelier, but also member of Turkish Tourism Investment Association, and in charge of I think 11 hotels. So very, very interesting. Then also with us is Markus Lehnert, so thank you and welcome to Istanbul, just arriving. As you know, Marriott International with 4,300 properties around the world, and maybe soon much more, with $14 billion a few years ago, and operates 19 brands, Ritz-Carlton, Bulgari Edition, Marriott, Renaissance, many brands. So, two experts, I would say, excellent experts to talk about our subject today. So, my first question would be to ECE. I just mentioned about how social media has an impact in our guests. How do you deal from your side, maybe most focusing in resorts? How do you deal with this fact that so many people decide a hotel based on the comments of others? How your company is doing with this topic?
It is definitely the case, and the reality is that all the review channels, holiday review channels, social media, and the internet has a huge impact on our business. Our expertise with our properties is the all-inclusive resort hotels, where the average stay is about 8 to 9 days. So this is also giving us an opportunity to track, monitor all the reviews, and mostly of the time it also gives us the chance to correct things while, if there is any negative remark, to find our guests in the resort and to make it up for them again before they leave. So the average length of stay in the all-inclusive resorts is an advantage in that respect. And how we deal additionally with the reality today is the online reputation management. You definitely have to appoint enough staff, train them to monitor, respond, take actions about on the every remark, every review that is made, positive or negative, about your property, and respond to people.
Very well. Maybe the same question, Markus. You are in a different role. How do you see this problematic with this?
Well, I think particularly when you have a very large brand or a collection of brands, you want to be mindful not to forget one thing. The most important person is still the GM in the business. The GM is the figurehead, he's like the captain of the ship, and a complaint or a review that is not particularly good, that should be responded to by the GM in person, because it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity not to win that guest back alone, but actually to make him a more loyal customer, because he's understood and heard. So I think we're going back to the basics of hospitality here, away from all the big systems we have, but of course we live subject to a big system. The internet is a huge system, and these reviews, they come sometimes a little bit too fast. You know, when you write a letter, you may think about it for a day because you don't have a stamp at hand. If you have an email, you can post it, and you may actually write something which you did not quite mean that way, or you did not quite want to express that way. So you have a lot of also very knee-jerk reactions from customers, and that is a particular minefield. Because you can't tell a customer, sorry, we were wrong and now you're wrong. That doesn't work. Yeah? But it is something where you need to have someone who is responsible. Ideally, you have a GM or someone who is in charge of this, who takes responsibility, who says, if we did something wrong, sorry, let's remedy it, what can we do? And this response should be fast, it should be prompt, it should be specific, and it should be kind.
Yeah, very, very clear. One thing I remarked with Paloma is the amount of awards that you won. Just to say a few, at Rescue with 92 score, TripAdvisor Award of Excellence, Zuber Award Winner Gold 2015, Thomas Cook, the Proven Quality, Top Hotel Certificate 2015. So we have lots of awards. And we know that in social media, what I read also, it's 80% or maybe sometimes even more than 80% are positive reviews. And I know, and we all know, that it's quite popular that when you encourage people to have a post-stay review, my question is, how comfortable are you in our industry encouraging the post-stay review? So for example, I know that you had a terrible stay. I would not encourage you to make a review. But I know it has a great stay. So I say, oh, you should talk about that in social media. Is this ethic? Is this fine? Or how do you see? Because it's nothing wrong. I'm telling you, well, if you like to say something good, go and say it to the others, isn't it? Oh, you do something wrong with you? I say, well, tell it to me, don't tell it to the others, isn't it? So my point is, how can we trust this in the internet nowadays?
Well, the trust, I think the trust from our current clients or the future clients, future guests are there. Because all these reviews, first of all, they are free. Mm-hmm. They're very easily accessible, and they are accepted to be objective and very trustworthy, more than any other content or picture or any other information that we commercially provide on any kind of online or offline channels. They are accepted to be 100% reliable because they're also coming from real guests and out of real experiences. So therefore they are trusted. And how we can encourage the positive reviews of all those guests that we have to go and write a post about the hotel after their stay is the only way to do that without frustrating, without pushing, without discomforting our guests, is to be able to provide them personal, memorable and valuable experiences that builds up an emotional attachment of these guests to the hotel, to your team, so that they like to say something positive about their experience and share it with others as well. And there is one thing for sure, that if there is a negative experience and you have made your guest upset for a reason, they will definitely go and let everybody know about it. So it is very important to make sure that you build up an emotional attachment, that your guests becomes your loyal exactly, loyal ambassadors, that they personally like to share their positive
so you
remarks about the hotel.
you think it's fine to encourage people to go and tell them? Yeah.
Sorry. I think now I'm coming back to the brands, because we have an extended stay brand called Residence Inn by Marriott. There you have a good relationship with the customer. The customer stays on average also sort of 8, 9, up to 22 days, perhaps longer. So those are the people who you have a very good relationship with. You can almost, with a friendly pat on the back, saying, write about it. If you have a Moxie, which is, the design, economy, lifestyle, budget brand, you would probably don't even need to do this, because these guys are on their computers all the time. They'll do it anyway. If you are looking at a Bulgari or a Ritz-Carlton, you may actually find a greater resistance to write something at all. They may still write a letter to the GM rather than posting it. And I would also say, if you know someone had a bad stay, try and remedy it, then encourage them to write something, so they write about what went wrong and how it was remedied. That's a very powerful message.
Very well. Very good. Just a quick comment. After our conversation, we're going to have a quick question and answer session. So if you have any questions, just take a note, because at the end we'll ask a few questions. One more subject was about the brand. So I just mentioned about all the brands in Marriott, all the brands of the hotels, different hotels you have. Also, one of the questions that I heard a lot is, how do we differentiate our brands? And this is a question all the time we receive as hoteliers. For example, in your case, you have more all-inclusive, I think, more directed, but still different brands, different names. How do you help customers and hopefully guests to differentiate and to have a good choose wisely the hotel to stay?
Well, of course, Markus will need more time to explain it, especially after the merger with the number of brands you have. But out of our more local and basic experience, I would say yes, we are more formed up of an all-inclusive resort hotels, and even within our relatively small chain, we have got some differentiated services and facilities. Of course, the family business, the family market represents a huge part of our guest portfolio, but we also have a reasonable amount of couples in our resorts as well. Today, we are with our PMS. We know exactly our guest portfolio, so about 72% is families and 72%, and about 23% is couples. So therefore, this already tells a lot to us how we can form our services and facilities. And at the end, if you can form them well, and if you meet with the right target group, and if you deliver properly, that has a great reflection on the guest experience, service experience, and the guest satisfaction, of course. How we differentiate our products, just to give small examples. In the all-inclusive resorts, of course, the most important elements in the service is the food and beverage and the entertainment. So how we as Paloma Hotels differentiate our F&B concept than the other ones, the other all-inclusive hotels is providing a serious wide range of organic food, for example, within the all-inclusive concept. Or with the entertainment, we are just getting far away from the normal traditional ways, and we provide different events and parties, etc., etc. Or yes, we focus a lot on the services that we provide to the families. So, but at the same time, we know that our guests, when they stay in the hotel, they at least like to have 1 or 2 nights for them. So we extend our opening hours of the mini clubs, where the parents can have some good and private time for themselves as well. But what we then provide additionally is our in-resort application. While they're having their candlelight dinner in one of the a la cartes, they can still watch their children in the mini club with their smartphones. Yeah. So all these kind of USPs that you can additionally provide to create a better guest experience is a part of differentiating your product than the other alternative.
Markus, the same for you.
Differentiating the product is the name of the game. For instance, ideally, what you do is you manage the expectations people have of a particular brand, and then you exceed them. Like an example, if you stay at a Moxie, which is a fairly standard design, nice hotel, but this is not something where the service is the all-encompassing item. And you leave your iPad, and you go to the airport, and at the airport you get a call. You've left your iPad, we have someone at the airport who brings you your iPad. You will be absolutely bowled over. You will never forget that hotel. With the Ritz-Carlton, you would probably expect something like that. So that's the difference. You have a different expectation, and you need to target these expectations, and that is how you come to the brand design. You need to specify what is the core requirement for this major segment. We all know that not everybody in a Moxie is the young and wild ones, and not everybody in the Ritz-Carlton is the establishment. So there is a overflow into each other, which is good. And but you have some core beliefs and some core standards which you put in there, and then when you have these standards, try and exceed them. Yeah. That's how you create some loyalty.
That's right. So, but there's one point that I'm trying to understand. You talk about expectations, and yesterday there was a panel here about luxury concept. It was a great conversation about expectation, because luxury and service is becoming more and more not so much about standards, but about how do we meet the expectations of the guest. And I have a story, a funny story back in Moderator about an ice cream that this lady is having swimming in the water, and we had this, at the middle of the morning with this ice cream distributed on the beach. Supposedly to make it like unexpected, or make it like not even. So she is swimming, and she's saying, "So I'd love to have something in my mouth now because of this salty taste in the mouth." So she stops swimming, she turns back, and there's one of these Imperial guy standing there with an ice cream. Wow, this was astonishing to have this experience. So this was great because it was unexpected. Now, she goes back to the room, she posted it on the internet, and now 5 million people know about it. And they go to the beach and they expect that ice cream. Now, if it doesn't happen like this, now it's a disappointment, isn't it? Because you were expecting the ice cream. You turn around, oh, they are great in this hotel. You turn around and they have an ice cream for you. If that happens, great. But if that doesn't happen, then it's a kind of a disappointment. So how do we deal in luxury brands, or not luxury brands, doesn't matter. How do we deal with the expectation when we have today a partner called internet spreading the word for millions and millions of people?
I think by empowerment of the staff and extreme creativity. We have exactly this problem at Moxie, because Moxie is a little bit wild and anarchy, yeah? And when I went into my room at the Moxie, someone had written on the mirror in the bathroom with pink lipstick, "Moxie loves Markus." It took me 2 minutes to get that on Facebook. It was great, yeah? It was exactly what you said. Now, next time, when I come and stay at the Moxie and the same sentence is written there, I think, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
The third time, I think, oh, yeah. So there is a creativity. You need to innovate. You need to have people be on their feet and think, here's a customer, what can we do for him today? You know, what does he want? You know, perhaps it's just a little message like, God, you look great, or mirror not needed, or something else, or you don't write anything there at all. You write something at the door and you say, have a great day, see you when you come back, or some kind of little message, perhaps. That's for Moxie. It's not for luxury. Luxury customer, totally different. My personal belief is understatement is the new form of luxury. Yeah? We have hotels like the W, we have hotels like the Edition, we have hotels like other Ian Schrager properties or so. They are understated luxury. And that is something where I see a major trend.
Yeah. Would you like to share any example?
Well, I can only say there are certain brand standards and promises that the brand, specific brands, are associated. And now, apart from the hardware, design, etc., it's more and more common that the brands are being more associated with the services that they provide. So I think the most important is, first of all, to know your target group, to know your guests, and design your promises and services accordingly. And when they are there, they definitely ask for it. So you have to deliver properly. So that is very important. But like the example that you have given, gestures should always be there, because our business is still so much related to the human interaction. The gestures can always turn into an expectation, but there, I think it's always better to continue to keep that going, other than being more hesitant about doing the gestures, assuming that they may create additional expectations.
But don't you think, and also in the audience about this I would like to ask, is don't you think that sometimes the world we live in today, we are kind of 30 years ago, these kind of gestures were kind of genuine. Today is kind of, we are becoming more and more difficult. We are still gymming, and we have to, because, by the way, the guest notices when we are gymming or not. So we have to be very careful. So on one side we have the pressure to be innovative. On the other side we have the pressure to be genuine, to be authentic. Maybe also the pressure to tell in terms of costs, in terms of things, also this pressure as well. So how, this is the big question mark for the future that I see. And well, you know where we're going with this. But what I would like you to say to the audience, and I would like also to open kind of a debate with the audience, if you have any questions about this topic.
I think authenticity is something very individual. It is always an individual that is authentic. It is sometimes it's a group, but rarely. So it is a question of recruiting the right staff and training the right staff. We're back to the captain. The captain, or the general manager of a hotel, is also in charge of creating the atmosphere. He will have been chosen by the brand that he can do luxury, that he can focus on economy, that he can focus on commercial or conferences and congresses, and there he needs to drive all those initiatives. And the ice cream, I think it's a wonderful example, and I think it's something, if you have something which you do, and that can be a program, but within this something you have everything. You know, someone can do a little cake, or some or a little give out some rubber ducks or whatever. So you have, but you need to have a program, because what people want to do, let's look back. People used to stay in hotels because they were away from home. They had their friends at home, they had their family at home, they had their work in the office. Now, people have their friends with them, they have their work with them, they have their family with them because they can Skype, they have their Facebook accounts, they have their Instagrams, they have their work presentations, so they are actually having their life in their trolley bag. And therefore they can, you know, we see a mixing from pure hotel to hotel, and this is where I live. This is why I want to feel comfortable here, because this is my life. I'm opening up camp here, so it has to reflect. This is the birth of lifestyle hotels. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. Yeah, and I think that's another important trend which we notice. People have their lives in their trolley bag.
Very well. Before moving on, I would like to ask if there's any question for now about this topic. Please.
I do the roll.
My name is Markus. I'm from Vatel School. I just wanted to ask, when some hotel do some genuine gesture, it's something authentic, but after the other hotels just follow up and it becomes ordinary. So how can we innovate, or where can we innovate?
I think it's kind of answered already before, but
No, in which ways can?
yes.
Expectation is always changing. So
Do you want to?
Well, I think not only in our industry, but every industry, innovation is the most important fact that we're all obliged to be thinking of. Because, like Markus was mentioning, people are just connected constantly. They see things, they read things, the knowledge is getting so wide. So the expectations are also getting higher and higher. And the competition, especially in the hospitality industry, is so brutal. You will always have to innovate yourself. Really know your guests and their expectations and form your services accordingly. This is never ever going to stop, because people are changing. Their expectations are changing, and it will change. So you have to adapt yourself, be innovative, and exactly find and create the right services that fits exactly with those expectations, with those changed expectations.
I think if you're really clever, you might also be able to influence the choices what the customer was. So you can actually bring people to new things. You can show them some innovation which you have in your hotel, where the guy says, wow, that's actually great. And they see something. But you know, to your point, you raise an expectation. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody will want it, and then they want something else. There is an interchange, and we all change. Sometimes we like a little bit more orange juice, sometimes we like a little bit more water. So those expectations are changing within us as well. So luckily we're not in a situation that everything ever has to get bigger. But you want to see whether it's a need which you need to satisfy, or whether it's an add-on. And if you have an add-on, you've got to be a bit more creative. Yeah.
Very good. Let me do it. That's my job. So it's okay. Yeah, so we have another question.
Yeah, I actually have several questions. So, thank you very much for your presentation. It's really interesting. My name is Aygul. I'm from Kyrgyzstan, also work in hospitality industry. So my first question is, you know, like some five-star hotels in different countries try to become friends, like with the purpose of improving their CRM. What do you think about that? Like, for example, I think that most of the customers, when they travel, like, if they want to be, becoming friends, like, really being really close and informal. Like, I think that, like, most customers, when they stay in budget hotels, guest house, hostels, that's what they want to do. But, for example, when I stay in 5-star hotel, I do like my name to be remembered, but I would like to keep distance. So I would like to hear your comments about that. And then another question is, like most customers, when they stay at 5-star hotels, they have high expectations, and when they have positive experience, they usually don't make an effort to leave a review. So how do you encourage them to leave a review? But of course, when they have a bad experience, they make sure to leave a review. But for the good one. And one more question is, yes, in Turkey, especially, for example, Antalya, just before coming here, I had a 5-star hotel management in Antalya, and I talked to the marketing specialists in different hotels, and most of them say that, because for example, 80 to 90% of the bookings come from travel operators, they don't really think that individual reviews on TripAdvisor booking are very, they think that it's mostly subjective. So what do you think about that? And actually the last question is, I was actually also shocked during training that very few staff at the hotels could speak English, including managers. So, what's the percentage of English-speaking staff? I know probably Marriott is international, but at Paloma Hotels, what's the percentage of English-speaking staff? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, a few questions.
The Turkish one is free.
Your first question about sharing the CRM information, I believe this can only be kind of off the record. I have not witnessed, I have not experienced something like that, because that's got a lot of, it's got a lot to do with the privacy protection laws, etc., as well. So we actually cannot share personal information to other parties or third parties by law. But on the other side, I cannot imagine that we would like to do as well, because that is actually, in fact, a conflict. Today, in the conference hall upstairs, there was a remarkable statement from Sadi Şener from Tau Airport. He said, the biggest debate is, we still argue, the tour operators argue, the airlines argue, even the airport management argue, or the tour operator, hoteliers argues that the guests belongs to them, it's our guest, but who does the guest belong to exactly? So the information of our guests, clients, are our Bibles, kind of, so they have to be protected, and they have to be properly and carefully used by lots of reasons, by law or by commercial reasons, etc., etc. So that's my opinion on that subject. And the second question was about the reviews, to encourage the positive reviews. I think during...
Because the first question actually I'd like to clarify. So what I meant is, what do you think about the unofficial friendship in 5-star hotel between guests and staff? So when they try to become friends,
Familiarity.
do you decide, or do you think they should keep distance? Remember the name, remember the customer, but also try to because most people who travel at the 5-star hotel, I would like,
I think the skill of the staff is to know how far to go. And frankly, I think there should not be a friendship per se. It's not appropriate. I think you can certainly be friendly, and depending on how long a guest stay, you may end up knowing the names of the children of the cleaning lady. Yes, that's okay. But I don't think that there is a friendship, and it should definitely not be encouraged. What should be encouraged is that there is a warm and friendly feeling of the customer towards the hotel, and that includes, of course, the staff. So I think that's a fairly critical aspect.
About the English, I think it was one of the questions.
With Marriott, we have no problem with the English speaking language, so that's true.
Well, I would say in the coastal regions in Turkey, the growth in the number of hotels that were opening every year was quite remarkable. I mean, since 2010, approximately 35 to 40,000 new beds were introduced to the market every year. And of course, this had a serious impact on the qualifications and the qualities of the staff, which was definitely a challenge. And of course, as Paloma Hotels, with our 30 years experience, with our very loyal employee range and a very low turnover with our employees, we are, I can say, we are lucky in that respect. But also with the new stuff that we every year have to hire, we have serious programs, serious language programs that takes like a couple of months before the opening of the hotels to improve in that respect. But it's not only about English, actually. It's also about the German-speaking skills, or French, or even Russian, etc., etc. So I think, especially in the area that we operate, since the guest profile is so multinational, we cannot really rely on one language. English, only one language, is not enough anymore. So the expectation in that respect from the staff is also higher. Yes. And like you said, I mean, 72% of our guests are families, they've got children. Even the parents do speak English, the kids don't. So you have to provide them the multilingual speaking stuff in many areas that are directly in charge with the little guests, I would say, which is quite a high proportion in the hotels.
One quick response to your question about encouraging people when the travel agents do the booking anyway. Let's not kid ourselves. If before I book with the travel agent something, I'll have a look at that hotel which he recommends to me, and I see exactly what is written there. So it doesn't really work quite that way.
Maybe I can also give you some solid examples in there, because we are also at the same time the partners of Thomas Cook in Turkey. I'm not in that part of the business, but I know how exactly they function. It's actually on contrary, majority of the tour operators, big ones or small ones now, states and publishes either, depending on the market of course, for some markets, let's say for the Benelux market, Zilver is still the most popular review channel, where in the UK, or majority, it's still the TripAdvisor, but in Germany, Holiday Check is still leading the market. So we know that the tour operators are publishing the real performance and the percentages of those review channels in their brochures, so in the hard copy brochures, or they've got this link in their websites. When you just search for a hotel specifically, wherever you search it, but also even on the tour operator websites, you see the review channels, guest satisfaction ratios on the websites of the tour operator. It's about that property. And now they're signing serious contracts with reputation management companies like Trust You or others, that they even publish, they even eliminate their own guest satisfaction surveys or questionnaires, and they take those as the authority, as their opinion on it as well. So it's actually right on contrary, that working dominantly with the tour operators wouldn't mean that you're not affected by the realities of the review channels.
There's one more question.
How do you encourage people to leave a review?
Let's do it afterwards.
One second, just one question more behind you. Yeah. And they'll be back if you have time.
My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. I'm also with ECE TONBUL News, and I'm a very frequent traveler, being a Diamond member with Hyatt, Gold member with Starwood and with Marriott. So you can see I stay a lot of in the hotels. And what really bugs me, because your various hotel groups, now in your case Marriott and Starwood, is trying very hard to earn the loyalty of guests to keep coming back to your hotels. How can you justify the two things? That if someone books your hotel through a third party like Expedia or Booking.com and stays in your hotels, I understand you may not be able to calculate points very accurate, but how can you not give status nights, because you obviously you use the room, you sleep in this room, I think it's kind of contrary to, you know, what loyalty programs are. I can tell you in my case, I have an agreement with Hyatt, and I've been a Diamond member with them for many years now. No matter how I book it, even if I book it through a convention or anything, I get my status nights. So I'm just wondering how you keep your people loyal to actually go to your brand and keep booking it.
Markus?
I try. I mean, the reason why we do this is, of course, we don't want you to book via e-bookers and Expedia. You know? It's not a big secret. Yeah? We want you to book directly with, by Marriott.com. That's no secret. That's the cheapest distribution channel which we have, and that's sort of our part of the bargain. Interestingly enough, a lot of people do this, because we have been fairly successful in reducing the number of OTA bookings down from, we know this from, for instance, autograph hotels where we have a before and after. Yeah? And before they have usually about 35% of their bookings via OTAs. Post-conversion, that slips down to 7%. So this is part of the attractiveness of the brand. To the customer, it doesn't usually make an awful lot of difference. In your case, what you describe, it does make a difference. And we want to encourage you to book via our website. I think that's probably the honest truth.
I understand, but if you do, for instance, book through your website, I had several cases, and I usually book through your website. That's how I keep my status, and I go to your websites first. But some of the issues you have, for instance, at Marriott, at Starwood probably better, I've experienced several times, you go to a third-party website like Booking.com, you find the rate $20 cheaper, you call your rate guarantee and they tell you, well, you need to give us 24 hours, and then you arrive at 24 hours, so obviously you couldn't do that, or in 24 hours the rate changes. So the system, I think, needs some adjustment.
That may well be. I don't know the specifics there, but I'm very happy to sort of put that forward to someone. We can talk afterwards if you want to.
Very well. Any other question?
I think I wouldn't. I think I would not discourage it. I would say, we have this website. If you want to, you can say something, but I wouldn't make it a special standard program, encourage the customer to leave a review. That's not a policy of Marriott, that's just my personal opinion as someone who's been around in hotels for 32 years. So I wouldn't do it. Yeah. If the customer wants to do it, they will do it, and particularly in five-star properties, a lot of people are not interested in that. They just don't come back if they don't get what they want.
Very well. I think if to finish our meeting, there was one more question there. Maybe last question before we resume, because it's already more than our time. But
so, my name is Ganya from Nigeria. I represent Gasfar Travels. I'm a travel agent. So to buttress to what the man here said, you know, we've been having a lot of challenges in booking on your platform. But the major question I want to ask is, whenever you book, maybe your client said he doesn't want the hotel again or he wants a cancellation, the charge that you guys to take is in a much side. So I don't know why we face that challenges.
so your question is?
The question is, the charge is much when you cancel a ticket, or when you cancel a booking, rather. So why that? The cancellation charge, I mean.
I don't really know how to answer that question. In fact, it's a bit different from the topic that we are discussing here.
Yeah, I think you addressed that question to me. I haven't got that answer. Again, I'm not necessarily familiar what charges are levied there, why they're levied. That's not really what I'm involved in on a day-to-day basis. But again, I'm sure that that can be found out, and I can give you my card, and then you can we can try and find someone to answer that question.
Very well. Well, so we have to wrap up the conversation, so I think we could talk about this matter all afternoon. So remember, just the final note: hospitality marketing, service experience. Today we have this kind of binomial. It's what's more important? It's the experience of the guest, or is the marketing? Because we create the expectation, then we have to deliver the service. And deliver the service will be to internet, and will be a marketing tool, and so on. So it's a kind of vicious cycle that we are today. So I think it's a great topic to discuss, and I think the future is much more about this. So I just want to thank you again, Markus Lehnert, the Vice President International Development of Marriott International. Thank you for flying just 15 minutes ago, arriving, more than 15 minutes now. So Markus, thank you so much for being with us. And Ms. ECE TONBUL, our CEO of Paloma Hotels, 11 hotels in Turkey. Only Turkey? For now.
And she will be flying in 15 minutes.
Exactly. So you're flying in 15 minutes. So thank you again for participating in this forum. Congratulations to you and the audience and to the forum itself. It was a great day to start. Thank you.